Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Amazing Race Rewind podcast, the podcast where we rewind back in time to watch the earliest seasons of The Amazing Race for the first time. My name is Andrew.
And I'm Jill.
And we are back with another phenomenal guest that we are very excited to introduce to the podcast. Here is Ashley. Ashley, how are you doing?
I am doing so good today. I'm very excited to be here. I'm ready to go. I have my notes and I am committed to this podcast.
That's awesome. We're so excited to have you. I guess though we should get into your history, your lore before we start the podcast. So, what is your experience with The Amazing Race? Have you watched the Canadian version? Have you watched the American version? What do you know about it?
Absolutely nothing.
Great.
I watched the first episode ever today, a mere hour ago, and I am intrigued and interested. But yes, I've never consumed any Amazing Race content. The only content of Amazing Race I have come close to consuming is just Survivor crossover-esque. Just because I feel like sometimes the communities crossover a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've watched Survivor. I don't watch that now. That's the only reality television game show I've consumed.
Okay, so with that being said, were you familiar with the concept of The Amazing Race, or is this a whole new idea to you? Did you know what it was?
No.
Okay, great.
This is awesome.
I had an idea, but I wasn't sure how they were going to go about it, you know?
So then overall, would you say that you can approach this in terms of the concept or just as a general overview on the show? Is it what you'd expected? And was it good or was it bad? What were your first thoughts generally?
Yeah, it was what I expected because I know it's a family show. People get together and watch it. Maybe because it was an older season, but it was just a lot less fast paced than I thought it would be. And I just have so many questions about the structuring of the show. The advantages are really interesting. How much money do they get when they start out? I'm literally there's so many questions and I'm excited to dive deep with you guys on them.
Well, this is awesome. I just have one more thing to add, which is kind of funny, but we've only had 2 guests at this point, but every time we get on and we record the little intro that I said to Andrew, for him and I, it's just snaps in, we're in the zone the minute that we record that same intro that's at the start of every podcast, but our guests always just die. They just find it so funny. When we had Martine on, we had to re-record the intro because she was just laughing so much at us.
Well, I couldn't hold it together either. I was a mess. I was is this a joke to these people? Because I take this very seriously personally. This is my profession. This is my career. So I am very glad that you are here and have no prior knowledge of the show. We like to keep it fun and fresh. That's why we're bringing these guests.
Yes.
So also, one last thing before we get into it. What do you think of this cast? These characters?
Okay. Very interesting group of characters. And I was talking to you guys before we started recording about how each character has a very distinct subcategory that they fall into. When I saw there was a divorced couple on the show, I was shocked. Who would have thought that?
Well, they had one last season too, and the team last season actually they were trying to use the show as a means to reconcile.
Oh wow!
But this season I don't think that's the case. But so it's a common trope, I guess.
Yeah, interesting dynamic for sure. Siblings, classic duo. I just thought it was really interesting, the characters, but they don't seem to interact that much with each other. They're very
right.
It's a very solo storyline, which I'm not quite used to in terms of my competition reality television show.
Yeah, exactly. Here, this episode, we get a lot more interaction between the teams than we usually see.
Wow.
This episode was definitely the most trashy in terms of arguments and kind of pettiness and all this that we've seen so far.
Wow.
But it's airport drama, and Andrew, you love that.
Yeah, but see, the airport drama didn't involve drama with booking flights. It was more of just
That's true.
Drama within the team. Drama that was happening at the airport.
That's airport drama.
Sure. But anywho, so overall, I thought this was an extremely action-packed episode. I thought it was, I would say, the best episode of the season so far.
I think so.
It was a very tight race. Everybody was close together. And a large part of this is everybody was on the same flight. And everybody had a chance to win it. It was very dynamic. Yes, that's rare.
So
Wow.
kind of last season, the case was that they were kind of given free for all. They were just told where they needed to go, and they would book whatever flight pattern worked for them. This season, they've gone half and half. Sometimes that's the case, but other times they actually list like 2 or 3 flights that the teams are only allowed to be on. But it's rare that they're all on the exact same flight.
Yeah, I think this just sort of happened that everybody got on the same flight. I don't think it was any production intervention or like any prodding from the production. I think it just kind of happened like that, which is what we love to see.
Yeah. I thought that was really interesting to just see them like run, and then just sit on a plane waiting to get to Thailand. Like, so like anticlimactic. Like there's curves in this show, I feel like.
There is.
So, shall we get right into the episode?
Yes.
I think so. So, Andrew, where do we open?
So we're opening at Amani Lodge in Namibia, and here we go again with some more drama during the rest period. This season, or these past 2 episodes, it's like been 2 games in one. There's like during the day, we're on the Amazing Race, and then at night, during the rest stop, we're at Jersey Shore. That is what we're doing. So what's going on here is Tara and Will, who they're always in some mess. They're always having drama with other teams. They're getting in the mix, and so supposedly Blake had said to Chris and Alex that he wants Tara and Will out, and then Chris and Alex went and ratted Blake out to Tara and Will, who then want to confront Blake. And this is like, Ashley, you mentioned Survivor. This feels like very Survivor-ish dynamics, where there's a social, strategic element to the game introduced that we didn't see at all last season.
See, we started the episode off like that, so I thought that was going to be like kind of the tone throughout.
No.
And then I was just like, it was so much to just dive into too, not watching any other previous episodes. It's like, they cut off the grannies. And I'm like, who are the grannies and why were they cut off? Like,
Ashley, you would have loved the grannies. You would have loved Peggy and Claire.
Everybody does.
and like, they seemed like so great. And I this is what I wrote down. They're in the desert. Tension develops. Doesn't feel very restful.
That's true. Yeah. There's no
And they
rest
only
for
have
Tara
12
and Will.
hours. They only have 12 hours at these pit stops between legs.
Wow. That's crazy.
So yeah, during the confrontation, Tara confronts him saying, I heard you want us off. And then Blake replies with, no, I just don't like you guys. Which I was like, okay.
Real.
And then like Ashley mentioned, Tara and Will say you cut in front of the grannies at the airport and made them cry. And you cut in front of Mary and Peach, you play like a fool. So when were the gutsy grannies crying? I didn't see that. You would think that they would show it in episode, what was this, episode 3?
I think so.
And this kind of tension between Tara and Will and Blake and Paige just seemed to kind of come out of left field here in this episode.
Yeah, no, I don't even know. It's weird that, like, maybe it was there before and they're just kind of now realizing they should be showing more and more of these behind-the-scenes pit stop footage these clips. So maybe it was brewing since episode 1 and they just didn't show it, but it's at a point.
Yeah. And I'm wondering, why are Blake and Paige being portrayed as bad guys for what they've been doing? To me, they haven't really done anything bad.
They seem like a fairly neutral team to me, like,
Yeah.
honestly.
And then Will goes, because Will and Tara are talking after the interaction, and he says, I'll feed him to the tigers. And then there's this scene where him and Tara high-five, and there's this horrible high-five, like a clap sound effect. Did you guys notice that? That was obviously added after the fact, because there's no way a real high-five would sound like that.
Okay, I do want to talk about the editing for a real quick second in the show, because like the slow-mo portions, like slow-mo laughter, love that. The recap part of the episode, I'm obsessed. They're all just running around with like giraffes, and I'm like, yeah, what is going on? And then like, just like, oh my god, can we talk about the theme song for a second? The theme song and like the opening credits when they're all just like,
So dramatic.
and I wanted to ask you guys, as soon as I watched the opening credits, what task would you guys be doing if you were like doing your opening credit scene? Because there was like, I think tennis for one of them, or like they were just like hanging out in the living room.
It's true. Peggy and Claire were doing some skiing or something.
It really has to like symbolize your kind of niche as a team. So yeah, Andrew, what would we What
We're
would we do?
sitting in front of our computers talking.
We're podcasting.
Just hunched over.
Yeah, hunched over, poor posture, a complete mess of a room, just sitting in a dungeon podcasting. That's us.
That's
I
good.
love that. No, sorry, we're interrupting the flow of the episode, but I have to ask, I guess, Ashley, who would you want to go on the race with, and what would be your credit activity?
Okay, I've been thinking about this for like a week now.
Wow.
And, okay, because we were talking about it after we saw Iron Claw in the theaters, because we were like, "Ugh, strength of family, whatever." And and I was thinking about it, and I was like, I would love to bring someone like Alexa on, because I think my friend Alexa, who I live with, my roommate, I think she would be like great to go on, just because like we're very similar personalities, and I think television would love us. But practically, I need to outsource.
You guys should apply.
Practically, I need to outsource someone with like military experience. Like,
Oh.
I need someone who can like navigate. I need someone who can carry my bags for me. Like, I need a lot more things that a friend could maybe offer, you know?
I hear you.
You're gonna be going on like dating apps, but like putting in your like tagline, looking for amazing race partner.
See, that's not a bad idea, I guess.
Honestly, yeah. Like, you find a life partner out of that and an amazing race partner. So I think that's a good combo.
Interesting.
Yes. Okay, so we conclude this drama during the rest period here, which, by the way, is completely unconventional for The Amazing Race. This is pretty much unheard of. We don't get drama like this usually. And the leg starts with Oswald and Danny at 7:47 a.m. And they are instructed to travel to Bangkok, Thailand. And they first have to go to the airport in Windhoek.
Yes.
And then the next team to depart is Tara and Will at 10:34 a.m., about 3 hours afterwards. So Oswald and Danny, they got a little bit further ahead with their fast forward last episode.
They did, but as we mentioned earlier, it doesn't seem to matter because all the teams depart at different times. And there was a speeding penalty, too, from the last leg. We should mention that. But they all get on the same flight. So really, even though there's a massive gap in space, it doesn't matter.
Yes. So Gary and Dave, they arrived second at the pit stop last episode. But last episode, when they have to drive themselves, they were instructed to go 20 kilometers under the speed limit. But they were going the speed limit. And then that resulted in a 42-minute penalty, which resulted in them leaving third. So it was both Gary and Dave and Chris and Alex did this.
How did they get 42 minutes? Because, like, as an outsider, that seems like a very arbitrary number.
My guess is that they took the amount of distance that they traveled and the speed at which that it would have taken them when they were going 120 versus 100, and then just kind of
That makes sense.
did the math, you know?
That makes sense. Yeah.
That's
They're
my
pretty
guess.
practical. They're pretty practical when they do penalties and stuff. Like, they really try to logically account for it.
Yeah. And I really appreciated that. Like, when I saw that, I was like, good for the producers of this show, punishing the cheaters. I appreciate that.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, because in what was like season 1, episode 1, there was this driving task, and teams went in, like, they went berserk. They did not follow the speed limits at all. Was this in South
it was
Africa?
Zambia, I think.
Zambia. It was in Zambia, and they just were driving everywhere, like, no care for the rules or regulations.
was horrible.
So they were definitely trying to get at that here.
Yeah. So Gary gets going, and he has a Gary quote where he says here...
There were so many Gary quotes this episode. I just knew you loved all of them.
I don't know if I loved them, but they were definitely... Okay, well, this is what it was. He says, quote, "My parents took me..." Talking about going to Thailand, mind you. He says, "My parents took me to Chinese restaurants, Thai restaurants, and sushi, so I know the culture." Which is such an eye-roll inducing quote, and I, like, physically sighed when I heard this. Ashley, I want to hear your thoughts on Gary and Dave. Do you remember them? Like, do you have any opinions?
Yeah. Those guys are interesting. Yeah. It was interesting to see them navigate the situations and just say things.
Yeah, see, yeah, that's the thing. Gary, he just says things. It's
Yeah.
like, I don't know if you're trying to be funny or if what you said trying to make sense, but I'm just gonna take that and move on because I don't know what I'm supposed to do with that. This team is like the Rosetta Stone to me. I cannot figure out what they're doing. So yeah, Gary has the 3 pillars of Thai culture, where Chinese food, Thai food, and sushi. So,
Oh, God.
this Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah. Anyway, we still haven't gotten to the airport yet.
Yeah, so teams are still making it to the airport, and as a gesture of an apology, I suppose, I don't know, Blake and Paige, they let Mary and Peach go first for cutting them last time, but it doesn't really make a difference at all because Mary and Peach are reading it out loud and Blake literally rips it open a second after Mary and Peach do. So, whatever. And then Blake is telling us about how he has a secret weapon up his sleeve and how he's going to give the airport employees a present, a little rhino.
Like, what?
Yeah, he wanted to take the Oswald and Danny approach where he just like waltzed right in there all calm and gave them a present amongst all the chaos.
Did it work? Who really knows? Because again, they were all on the same flight.
And the person was like, "Oh, thanks."
Yeah, it's like I've never received a gift at work like this before, but
So all the teams depart. Nothing really happens. They get to the airport.
and here we have a confrontation. So Blake just needs to get this off his chest because Will has been grinding his gears. So Blake walks up to Will and says that Will has made Blake's life a, quote, living hell, and that he just came here to have fun, and he's not having fun, and Will has been doing everything in his power to make sure it's not fun for Blake, and he just wants to have fun.
A bold move.
Yeah, so this, again, is just kind of coming out of left field. I'm like, oh, okay. And Tara and Will are pretty much just like, okay, like, I don't think we've done anything to you, but go off, I guess.
I do have a sidebar for Blake. Apparently, he's the CEO of Tom's Shoes, the organization, the charity organization.
Like Tom's?
Yeah,
The shoes?
the shoe brand that gives back to like
Where is this
children
coming
in
from?
need.
You did research on him?
Yeah, I was reading like a review of like the episode after I watched the episode, and they were just like, Blake later became the CEO of Tom's Shoes, a charitable organization which gives shoes to a child in need for every pair of shoes sold. And this is
wow.
And he did this because of his experience on The Amazing Race. I don't know if it's a spoiler or not.
Okay, well, don't say
but, like,
anymore.
I'm not
I feel
saying
like
anymore.
that might be.
Wow. The Amazing Race changing lives. Crazy.
It's like we always say, changing lives here on The Amazing Race.
Yeah.
Rewind.
Rewind.
Yeah, we always say that.
We
do.
always do. We do. So,
Thank
Yeah.
you, Ashley.
yeah, thanks for that little sidebar. My life has gained meaning now that I know that. So thank you.
Yeah. And now you have some context to watch the rest of the show with.
Yeah, I was like, this man will go on to be the CEO of Tom's Shoes. So yes, everybody is on the same flight, and once they arrive in Thailand, they have to go to the Erewhon Shrine. And here we have some more drama with Tara and Will, and they're getting into an argument about waiting for Chris and Alex, who they are in an alliance with. But I thought this alliance was over, but it seems to keep pushing on.
Well, we should add there's kind of a bit of a debate between Tara and Will around this, because Will doesn't want to wait. He wants to go. He wants to get out of there.
Yeah.
And Tara obviously wants to wait. And so then there's a bit of a debacle, but they seem to get over it pretty quickly. They're having fun, the two teams together. They get a van together to go to the location.
Yeah, this was obnoxious to me. It was obnoxious. Because, yeah, they're getting into an argument about waiting for Chris and Alex. Here's some quotes here that I wrote down very quickly. Tara, you're so stupid. I don't want to play this game anymore. I'm done. You're always done. You never want to help. And then they book this van and are hooting and hollering like they just made the power move of the century. And like this will make them win the race when it really didn't do anything.
No.
And further, Tara rats Will out to Chris and Alex, saying that Will didn't want to wait for Chris and Alex, so they should be thanking her. But it's like, why would you do that? Like, you're ratting out your own team.
Yeah. I wrote at this point, are they going to get separated for a second time? That was like, as teammates on the Amazing Race, like, will they just like not survive this either? Because
Well, they're not together right now. You mean separated as a
yeah. Like, when they were just like walking around in the airport, I was like, this is like a little bit of a disaster. And then like, yeah, why would you rat out your own team? I don't understand the dynamics of this situation.
Because if I'm Chris and Alex, I'm taking notes. I'm noting that in my head. I was like, okay, this team does not have my best, or half of this team does not have my best interests at hand. So I'll remember that. Thanks, Tara, for letting me know.
We should also add that Tara and Will, I kind of say have that like not hometown advantage confidence feeling, but they've been to Bangkok quite a bit. I think they said they go there like 3 times a year for business, something like that. Yes, so they're feeling pretty good. They're feeling pretty confident, and like they know what they're doing.
Yeah, we uncovered some Tara and Will lore, like they're business partners. I didn't know that before. Did they mention that before?
I don't think so.
Yeah, which totally changes the dynamic of the relationship because they're obviously still on good terms and work together and are able to work together as business partners of a furniture company. So I think that kind of changes their dynamic to me a little bit.
I agree. Yeah.
I wrote in my notes here, like at this point, I was just typing notes away like a court stenographer. I was just,
Yep.
I couldn't keep up because so basically the teams have to get to is it the shrine or the temple?
Yes, the shrine, yeah.
They have to get there, and they're all kind of doing, it's a very specific route. They have to take this bus or car or something, and then get on the Sky Train. And when they're on the bus, this was a Gary and Dave moment that I thought Andrew would enjoy / not enjoy. Dave is sitting down, and he's asking Gary why Gary won't sit down. And Gary says, I just feel like, what does he say? He said...
it feels like I'm going faster when I'm standing.
Yeah, and I get that. That's how I am a lot of the time.
Yeah.
You're ready for action, Jill.
It's like if I'm sitting down and I'm not as productive, I gotta be on my toes. This bus could stop at any moment. I gotta be the first off.
Exactly. Ashley, this is a side note. Ashley, were you there the night that the bus doors closed on me? It was like a couple nights ago. East Side Mario's.
Yes.
I just screamed, no!
I can picture that. And the way I know she would make it the most dramatic thing ever too when it happens.
We were getting off the bus and everyone else was ahead of me, and as I was in the doors, they closed on me, and I just let out this shriek.
Let me out, please.
Anyway.
So it is important to note that Oswald and Danny, they were in the back of the plane, so they've fallen behind here.
From first place.
Yeah, from first place. They've fallen behind and are having a little bit of issues getting a taxi while everybody else is on their way. So they're at the back here at the beginning, and we get to our detour.
And honestly, I was a little more impressed with this one. I feel like it was a good split decision, because Ashley, up until this point, the detours, they've made it like, oh, this option is further away but easier to complete, but this option is closer but is harder to complete, and everyone chooses the one that's closer. Like, it's almost unanimously, but everybody does one task. Where this one, I feel like, was a bit more even.
Yes. And for the formatting of the show, I don't know the host's name, but he's not present at all, but then will just materialize every time they open an envelope to be like, detour time, and you're just like, where did he come from?
I know.
We love Phil. Love Phil.
Phil,
It's just like a little aside that they've been doing in these early seasons, because, I mean, the show is still new to air, so people aren't familiar with the format, so they kind of over-explain things a lot.
Which I appreciated. I really appreciated.
I'm sure you did, yeah, because I guess people could be tuning in for the first time, season 2, episode 5, and they need some context here.
Yeah, but Jeff Probst would not be doing that.
No.
So the detour tasks.
The detour tasks are confusion now or confusion later. And like Jill said, these detours options, they're quite evenly weighted. Like, it's a legitimate detour where it's pretty much split 50-50 here.
So confusion now basically means that the teams have to navigate through a series of streets and canals, which is confusing. And they must find a water taxi or a longboat to take them to another area or an island. But once they get there, it's fairly simple. They find a bird market and they set birds free for good karma, receive their clue. Confusion later, they take a taxi or something to Chinatown. They must buy a cardboard car and then find where to burn it. And burning it is sending... What is it? It's
like an offering to their ancestors.
Yes, an offering. That's the word I was... Yes, it's an offering for their ancestors. And the teams go pretty evenly 50-50. So I want to ask you guys, what would you pick?
Well, might I add, with the confusion later, is that there seem to be several of these shrines where you can burn the car. So this kind of trips up a lot of teams because they don't really know where they're going or what to do. But I think I would probably lean a little bit more towards confusion now, just because I think For me, I'd rather get the hard thing over with at the beginning and then kind of smooth sail to the end rather than just do the easy thing first and then have confusion. But I mean, both options are pretty much evenly weighted, I would say.
Yeah, I said birds. I would take the bird option. Even without, like, I wrote that without knowing the outcome of, like, the confusion with all, like, the different places that they can burn it and stuff. But I feel like it was fairly straightforward, the bird one. You take the water taxi, and then you find this bird place, and then you move on. So I thought that was a pretty good option. And I love birds. So I want to go hang out with some birds.
Good,
Yeah, so the teams who take the bird task, there's no really apparent difficulty with the task. However, the teams who have to do the burning of the car, there seems to be a bit of an issue here, because as Andrew mentioned, there's multiple of these spots where I guess the car can be burnt. So a couple teams actually encounter the issue of buying a car, getting to a place where they can burn it, and they're expecting to receive a clue, and they don't. And I think, was it like Gary and Dave or Blake and Paige end up buying like 3 cars or something before they finally find the correct place where the race flags are. This is kind of a big schmoz.
Total schmoz. Well, yeah, so Gary and Dave are going and they get a car for the detour, which is a BMW. And Gary decides to make a whole meal out of this about how his grandpa would never drive a BMW. And I'm sitting here displeased.
It was so funny. It's the whole time they're doing this task. Like, even when he's burning the car and, they're told to do prayers, his prayer to his grandfather is, "I'm so sorry, I'm sending you a German car."
It's
and
like,
he's just...
Yeah.
So ridiculous.
It's so... Like, I don't mean this rudely, but it's a very American thing.
I don't know what it's like in, like, other episodes of The Amazing Race or other seasons, but, like, you send them somewhere to, like, learn more about their culture and traditions and stuff, and then just totally not receptive to that or, like, being respectful. And it was just like, okay, just pray. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a common thing. I mean, if you drop any group of Americans anywhere in a culture they're completely unfamiliar with, there is going to be a little bit of insensitivity. And yeah, that was definitely apparent this episode.
I will also add too that we've talked about this before, but they make these tasks very intentional, but it's almost like you can't do that in the race because the teams aren't thinking like that. It's just so fast paced that they're trying to create these really deep tasks for them to do, where I'm like, this is something you should do at like the pit stop when the teams aren't like, okay, whatever, let's go, because they're racing, they're not thinking about that right now.
And it doesn't feel like very respectful at all of like their traditions and what they believe in. I was like disappointed in that, but
yeah, no, that's very common. They were very respectful to the religion. And these and also another thing is Blake and Paige. Blake realizes that he puts his car in the wrong flame or like the wrong shrine, and then he goes and pulls it out to try and salvage it, but he just pulls out this flaming cardboard car.
yeah,
it's like, just go buy another piece of cardboard, like another cardboard car,
yeah. I do want to like go back.
It's not worth it
a little bit, because Oswald and Danny, they picked up Fern, which, obsessed with Fern, love Fern, amazing, but they said it in the race. They were like, no matter your religion, you need to be respectful. And they said that as they were like participating in the activity, which I think was important to note.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, Oswald and Danny they're just like a beacon of positivity and chill and relaxedness and politeness. And they meet this girl, Fern, on the bus, and she ends up kind of going around with them for most of the tasks that are in Bangkok. She accompanies them and translates and helps them get around. So she's, kind of becomes a side character.
Yeah, she is incredible. And this is such an Oswald and Danny move where they just seem to make friends wherever they go.
Yeah, and I was reading from driedmangoes.com. I was reading their episode review, and apparently Fern, like, that's like a thing in The Amazing Race, I guess. Like, whenever you get a local to help you out and help guide them throughout the tasks, the fandom calls them a Fern, because this was like the first instance of that.
Oh,
I love that.
Surprising us with the lore.
I remember Fern.
You've done your research.
Yes, I remember Fern being the term for any local who helps the team, especially a local The Amazing Race fan who decides to help and guide the team throughout their hometowns. That's pretty cool, and it originated with Fern, Oswald, and Danny.
Wow.
Thank you for that.
And I mean, yeah, could you imagine being Fern just like on the bus trying to get somewhere and then some random people just say like, hey, can you help us? Like just these foreign people are like, can you help us do these random tasks? And she's like, okay, sure, let's go.
And then you're on American reality TV.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love Fern, though. She, like, literally saved them. Because they were struggling.
They were in last, and
Yeah.
she was probably the main reason for their success. I feel like they could have been eliminated if it weren't for her, but who knows?
Yeah.
Yes, well, we should add, so at this point, teams are getting through the detour, they're moving on, but Cindy and Russell are at the back of the pack struggling.
Yeah.
So that's what we were talking about. Danny and Oswald really get that advantage by meeting Fern, because she kind of helps them get ahead, where Cindy and Russell struggle a little bit navigating to get to their detour task.
Yeah, Cindy and Russell are definitely experiencing the most culture shock here and can't really seem to make their way through Bangkok in an efficient manner.
Yeah.
And this episode, there's a lot going on, but it's still relatively easy to follow where teams are and exactly what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's a very dynamic episode.
Should we talk about where they go after the detour?
Yeah, so after the detour, they have to travel to Ratchaburi by public bus, and then they have to go to a temple, and this is about 60 miles away. They have to take a taxi to the bus station first. So
Yes.
Will and Tara, they get dropped off in a random spot by their taxi, and Will is angry about this, and Tara, she has this amazing line. She says, you just want to play, quote, you just want to play your way, the angry little man way. And she devoured him with that. That was such a read.
Like, literally, like, go off. Like, love it.
Yeah.
There were some good quotes in this episode, honestly. Like, there were some good lines of dialogue.
Yes.
We're going to have a tough time picking a title.
Yeah, teams get to the bus. They take the bus to wherever they're going. And Chris and Alex and Gary and Dave, they kind of get off the bus at the same time. And they're kind of heckling at each other. And Gary pulls out his favorite line that he said last episode, you're going down.
You're going down.
Which is like,
He also, like, a couple moments later, Andrew, I'm wondering if you have the full quote, because I just wrote down parking space, but I know he said it, but did you write?
I have the quote, and I'm ready to unpack. So
Let's unpack.
He says, they go to the temple, and he says, it's very odd that I go to a temple and look for a clue. Usually, I go to a temple to look for a parking space.
And it's just so, it doesn't fit the context of where they are or what they're doing or what anyone has been saying. It just kind of comes out of nowhere.
It's like, is this some kind of like absurdist humor that you're not supposed to get that's meant to like puzzle and shock you, and that's the gag of it all?
We know that you love absurdist art, cubist art.
Yeah, the cubism really got me in grade 12 English. But does anyone understand this joke?
No?
No.
Okay. So crickets for Gary on that one. He really missed the mark, per usual.
Anyway.
And I do want to note that on the bus, let's give it up for Peach. She had a bowel movement. She's been sick. And this was a huge moment for her.
I wrote that down. Peach is using a restroom. This is big for her.
It is. It's huge for her. Constipation is no joke.
I thought that it was a big thing, though, because it's like, oh, she's using, like, a public restroom. Like, she didn't want to use a dirty public bus restroom, and that's what the argument was.
That is true, because her sister was like, it was fine. Like, it was nice in there. Like,
yeah, like, I thought that's what they were arguing about. I don't think it's that she was constipated.
I think she was. I think they were happy that she finally got to go to the bathroom.
Andrew, I don't want to debate this.
Well, I think that's what it was, though. You know what? I'm happy for her. Anyway, regardless.
can we go back to the two dueling teams taking like these taxis and just kicking at each other? Like that is like such a safety issue. That one guy was like literally like half outside, like get away. Because
they're in like it's tuk-tuks, right? It's not even taxis. They're in tuk-tuks.
It's like an open air thing, yeah.
It's I love when they do tuk-tuk races on the show because you hear these little engines going nee, and the music's so intense, but the teams are just like, you're going down. It's like, you know,
Boston sucks. NYC.
It's all very it's fun spirited. You know, like they don't mean what they're saying. It's a very fun moment.
Do they?
Well, I think it was a little bit of friendly heckling.
Okay. But anyway, they need to get to a temple in Ratchaburi. And
Yes.
this is where we encounter our roadblock.
Yes,
Yes.
and the roadblock prompt is this person should be comfortable in a crowd. So the thing is, Ashley, with a roadblock is that you have to choose who's doing it before you know what the actual task is. So they just give you a small prompt.
Like, for example, there was one, this is one I think of because it's something that I think unanimously would be Andrew. It was the one in Paris last season where it was like, who's got, what is it, like, good eyesight and
Oh, strong legs and a...
strong legs?
Yeah, because I had to
So
climb
it's
the Eiffel
like,
Tower.
yeah, and you had to, like, climb up a bit of the Eiffel Tower and search the Paris skyline for the Amazing Race flag. And instantly, I'm like, that's Andrew with
Yeah.
his 20/20 vision.
Usually they're quite abstract or they try to like throw you off a little bit.
Yeah.
But I mean, you can also read the context clues. They're outside of a cave, so obviously,
Yeah.
or, like, most likely you would think that you're going into a cave.
And there were
Yeah.
giant bat statues just like kind of everywhere.
That's true.
Well, we
Yeah.
haven't even talked about the task yet.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, so basically the task is, and we should also add, Ashley, that once you decide who from the team is doing the roadblock, you can't
can't.
switch.
Oh my god.
So the task for whoever chooses to do it is they must put on your PPE, your masks, and your goggles.
Which
You get a
one
flashlight.
person just disregarded? They were like mask
Dave just
off.
said, forget the mask, because there's so many, so you enter a bat cave where there's just bats and bugs everywhere, and there's probably so much bacteria, hence the mask and goggles, and the bats are swooping at you, and you have to crawl through this cave, or not crawl, like walk. There's headspace, but you walk through this dark cave with a flashlight, and the clue box is hidden in the cave. You grab the clue, you go out. It's Bruce Wayne's worst nightmare.
Chris, whoever did this from Chris and Alex described it as totally rank diaper city. But Ashley, how do you think you would do in this roadblock?
Like,
Not
with
well.
you, like, Ashley, let's say though, let's say it was you and Alexa. Out
It
of
would be
you
me.
two, and like,
Alexa is terrified of bats and getting bitten by a bat, okay? It would be me. And I don't think I'd be any better. I'd be on the ground, army crawling. I literally wrote down, I would pee my pants. Like, if things
I
started
think army crawling would be worse.
like you're just in
with
the
the
bacteria.
bugs.
There were like shots of a bunch of cockroaches and all these other creepy crawlies. It was
Yeah.
It was totally creepy.
I just don't think I was built for this. And up until this point, I was like, wow, I could go on the Amazing Race. Like, I think I could navigate this. And then we got to the roadblock, and I'm just all caps. Excuse me? Bats? What? Like, I can't even... I'd be rolling
Like-
around on the ground. Like, I don't know.
I'm trying to think, like, some of, like, the one task I always think of, Ashley, that is, like, this is why I would need someone who can just eat anything. Which, Andrew, you'll remember this. It was Amazing Race Canada. And I think it was, like, season 2 or something. And they were in... I don't remember where they were. They were somewhere in Asia. And it was a delicacy to have this, like, snake skin soup. So it's, like, literally snake skin in a soup.
Yeah.
And they had to eat all that. And then as a final, whatever, piece of the task, you had to watch, like, a snake's bladder or something be squeezed out of its body. And you had to eat that.
Wow.
And for, like, that's... So, like, for me... I couldn't do it. Like, I'm so queasy and I'm so sensitive, that kind of stuff. I would need someone who could do that kind of thing. So that's, like, just to give you an idea of, like, the range of tasks. Like, that's the quote-unquote craziest thing I've ever seen.
And, like, I think in that situation, I would need to be removed by medics. Like, actually, like, they would need to have a standby team. Like, I don't know if they have those resources available. I would get, like, 2 feet into the cave, and I'd just...
Just completely break down.
And
Yeah.
like, what? Peach got hit in the head with a bat at one point, and like
I think it
don't
was
know.
Cindy, but
Oh,
yeah,
Cindy.
someone got hit in the head. I think Peach got lost for a second.
It's giving the rat task from last season.
It's very much like the rat task, where it's pretty much just kind of like a scary thing, put you outside of your comfort zone, and you have to navigate through this kind of scary, I don't know, area.
And I would be scared
Yeah.
without the bats or the bugs. Just putting me in a dark
Just the dark cave. Yeah.
Like, that's enough for me.
That's fair. So, to round this off, Andrew, between you and I, who would do it? Because I think I could do it pretty well.
I think I could be fine also. It's just okay. I haven't done a roadblock in a while, so I'll do it, or vice versa.
Yeah, well, which we should add that most of the teams, like, there's no difficulty with this task, but it's Tara and Will, I think, when they get to it, they're trying to decide who is going to do it. And Tara's like, come on. And Will's like, you do it. And she's like, well, I've done all of them. He's like, fine, I'll do it. She's like,
Yeah.
no, I'll do it. And I can't remember, but I feel like she has done the majority of them.
Yeah, I don't keep track of who's done what.
No, I don't
for
either.
Roadblock
Yeah.
wise. But I want to highlight this one moment where there are 3 teams doing the roadblock. So Gary, Blake, and Peach, they're all in the cave at the same time. And Gary and Blake come out, and then we have, it like cuts to a shot of the cave entrance, and Mary calls, Peach! And then they cut to commercial. Like, applying that Peach has just gotten lost in this cave and is never returning.
And I do appreciate the person, like, sending the person into this cave that was afraid to use a public restroom. Like, like, couldn't use a public restroom, but send her into this dark abyss to, like, deal with her problems.
But ultimately, she had just seemed to make a wrong turn at some point, but she was able to get back pretty much right as in the next scene. Mm-hmm. And then after the detour, we head to our pit stop, which is at Play Plong Pong, and they have to take a longboat to get there.
I should add, so at this point, it's kind of late at night, and, you know, they're showing, in the intro, they're showing the journey to the pit stop. It's in day, it's so nice. But they get in the longboats, and it's just pitch black in this bay. Like,
Yeah.
they're the only lights are, like, on the boats, and they're facing inwards, so we as the camera can see the teams. It's just pitch black out on these waters. It would terrify me, because all I'd be able to do in that instance is play the Jaws theme in my head.
Because that's going to help you, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't do it intentionally.
So yes, we should note that everybody is kind of close together, except for it's highlighted that Cindy and Russell are really struggling with navigating their way through Thailand. They are really overcome by culture shock here. They can't really deal with this.
Yes, they said that which understandably, they're from a smaller town.
Yeah.
And the city is quite a shock to them, which I understand.
And this is quite a beautiful pit stop, by the way. It's like a pavilion by a river, and there's a bunch of like flora all around it. It's very nice. So, making a comeback here, Chris and Alex are the first to arrive after being the last to depart today at this,
they really,
this leg.
like, not to give away spoilers, but they really flip-flopped the whole, like, that's been the theme of this season. It's just like, top team, and the top team's now at the bottom team's now at the top. Like,
which we love to say.
Yeah. Nothing like last season, which was like, the Guidos and Frank and Margarita always somewhere at the top.
Yeah.
And
This, I think everybody has very, not consistent, but very similar skill sets, and they're all kind of on the same playing field, where I could see any of these 6 teams, well, except for Gary and Dave, which I've said, like, there's no way that they're going to win. Any of these teams winning. And Jill, to put it in your terms, they're just all tossed up in a salad, these placements.
Yeah. I feel like, as well, from my limited reality television knowledge, in Survivor, when they get an advantage in, like, a challenge or something, they're usually going to come out at least first place, second place, third place, whatever. Like, the advantages usually help. But, like, you get, like, a multiple hour-long advantage, and they all ended up on the same airplane, which really leveled the playing field. And then at the
name
end,
of the game.
It's like, what even happened? Like, everything went wrong for so many people.
Yeah, and I think something also that I liked about this episode is the teams, it was more based on their skills and more based on what they were doing rather than like outside taxi issues or poor leg design or anything. I think it was pretty much based on how well they were able to navigate Thailand.
Yes, I agree. I really like that.
So yeah, Chris and Alex came from the back and are in first place. Mary and Peach are in second, and they've been doing well lately. Mm-hmm. I really like Mary and Peach. I think they're a fun team. I think they have some funny moments. Tara and Will are in third, and they've been the most consistent team so far. I think they've always been in the top 3.
I think so.
Blake and Paige are in fourth, and Gary and Dave are in fifth. So now it's down to Oswald and Danny and Cindy and Russell for elimination. And I just want to talk about Cindy, who's doing this roadblock at the Bat Cave. And she's absolutely horrified by this roadblock. And she's doing it at night when it's pitch black outside, which I can imagine just would elevate the spookiness.
Yeah.
That's pretty brutal.
And she's the one who gets hit in the head by a bat and just has this complete guttural scream of pure horror.
She's also, I forget when she says it, but it's sometime around here, she really says, I've never heard of such a thing, which to me is such a TV line. Like, it's so scripted. I've never heard someone say that just unprompted.
Yeah. So she does it, and Oswald and Danny do come in sixth. with the help of Fern. Oswald, Danny, and Fern. They were a team of 3 this episode, really.
Yeah.
Let's take off Oswald and Danny. Fern came in 6th. So applause to her.
Kudos to Fern. But yeah, so ultimately Cindy and Russell are eliminated, and we got to start breaking out these non-elimination rounds soon. Like, we don't want what happened last season to happen again. So I think next episode honestly has to be a non-elimination round.
Yeah, we have to get one soon. But just to talk about Cindy and Russell, like, they were a fine team, but honestly, I'm glad they're eliminated. I'm not going to miss them. Out of all the teams that are left, sure, good riddance.
I was going to say they're the only team left kind of that doesn't have a strong edit personality. Like, they're not inciting conflict. They're not being aggressive, unprompted. Well, I don't even know how to phrase that. They're just kind of the most neutral team left. So it's almost fitting that they were eliminated, because now we're down to 6. And I feel like each team has made a name for themselves.
Yeah, I agree. And kind of like I was saying before, I like this elimination because Cindy and Russell were eliminated due to their own inability to adapt to Bangkok and navigate.
Yes. It wasn't because of a task. It wasn't because of technical issues. I don't remember if we did this with Martine, but I want to ask Ashley who she thinks will win.
Yes.
Place your bets.
Okay. This is hard because, like, I feel like everyone in this episode was on fairly even playing field. But I feel like it might end up being Blake and
Paige.
Blake and Paige, because they were very competitive, I feel like, this episode. Yeah. They were ready to fight. They were ready to rumble. I'm not sure how that'll play out in later episodes, though.
Yeah, they were actually my winner pick in the first episode, and I've liked what I've been seeing. They have the hunger, they have the fight.
Who did I say?
I can't remember who you said. Was it Oswald? I bet it wasn't Oswald and Danny, was it?
No,
it was.
But
Grannies,
I won last season, obviously. So it's okay.
I have no idea who you said. We'll have to check the tapes for that.
Rewind.
Pull up the receipts.
Yeah, we'll pull
Rewind.
Amazing Race Rewind. Rewinded.
Like, you know how those famous people are doing, like, the rewatch podcasts, like Wizards of Waverly Place or whatnot? Yeah. I think, like, in 40 years, it's going to be, like, the Amazing Race Rewind. Whoa.
Yes.
Rewinded.
Amazing Race Rewind. Rewinded.
Or Amazing Race Rewind. Rewound.
That's a good one.
Yeah, we got to work on the branding already.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like you were saying, Jill, yeah, I think we would have to have a non-elimination leg coming up. And I just want to know, why aren't we doing them earlier? Because we're going to have the same situation where we just have a bunch of them,
like
not
4
back to
teams
back.
left, yeah.
Yeah, and then we're just getting all the same teams over and over again. Where I prefer when we have more teams in the mix, because it's a lot more interesting.
And then once you get down to those final few, it's just plucking them off.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, I don't care if it's unfair. Why didn't we just pull an elimination on Lake 3 with the Gutsy Grannies? Let's say the production needs to recognize, okay, this is our team. Let's save them.
I think you're about 22 years late to making that demand.
Well, bring them back. Season 36.
But nevertheless, so that is the episode. It was a good episode overall, I think, from our perspective, Andrew. But Ashley, what are your closing thoughts?
Closing thoughts, I think it was really interesting television, and I've been doing this thing lately where I'm just popping in for a random episode of television with my roommates, or like watching the final episode of a season or something. So I kind of like this dynamic of going in with no context and like being introduced to all these characters mid journey, because like I assume we're like halfway through the season for them at this point, or
almost about, yeah.
Pretty much half, yeah.
I thought it was a really interesting watch, and especially looking at it from, like, it's 2024. When was this released?
2002.
Yeah.
Wow, yeah.
We weren't even born yet.
I wasn't even born. So it's interesting to watch it from, like, that perspective. But I could definitely see myself, like, tuning on to The Amazing Race and maybe just, like, doing schoolwork to it. Like, yeah. I feel like it's good passive listening. I like it, though.
But that we consume this in the most analytical way possible. We are anything but passive listeners.
You are active,
but if that's
engaged.
Your journey,
but you know what is great for passive listening? This podcast. So like, recommend us to a friend. We're on all streaming devices. We're, like I said, we have a YouTube channel now.
Wow.
Check us out there. Follow us, Amazing Race Rewind, on Instagram, or send us an email at amazingracerewind@gmail.com. We are great for background noise. We are also great if you want to listen analytically, break down the episodes with us. We're here for it.
Great for background noise and engaged listening. Like, that's good.
There we go.
That's your motto.
Couldn't
now.
have said it better myself.
Yeah. So Ashley, you mentioned you had questions at the beginning. Do you have anything that you want to clear up or
Yes.
get some clarity on? Yeah.
What are they competing for?
$1 million.
$1 million?
Yeah.
In 2002? Oh my god.
We did the math last episode, and it's like
Last
nowadays, last season, and it's roughly about like 2.1 or 2.2
Wow.
million dollars Canadian now. Yeah.
Wow.
And I don't think they've changed it today. I'm pretty sure the prize money is still $1 million.
No. And then there's our little Canadian version, which maybe it's gone up, but when the Canadian version started, it was like $250,000.
Yeah.
You
And
can't
then
even buy a
there's slew of
house
sponsorships.
for that. Like,
Yeah.
Oh, but the thing is, the Canadian one, it was $250,000, and you'd each get a vehicle. Like, there's always the
It depends
Prime
on
vehicle
who's the sponsorship, yeah.
Yeah, like sometimes it's a Ford F-150, sometimes it's like a Honda Civic. Like, you'd each get a car.
Honda Civic?
I don't know. Or with the CRV, that's the car. Sorry, the SUV.
yeah, but that's
yeah.
that's all the questions I have. That's all I need
Okay.
to know.
Great.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Ashley. It was a pleasure to talk to you. And that is it for us with season 2, episode 5.
Yes.
Yay!
Yay. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.